What's up, everybody? Going down this weekend, we got UFC Winnipeg, Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott, and this is going to be my full card breakdown and predictions. Let's rock and roll right into this rather underwhelming card, to say the least. First fight of the night, we got Siraj versus Yannis. So Yannis struggled big time in his UFC debut. Now, to be fair, that was against Austin Bashi, who's a very good wrestler and has a solid ground game, and we are seeing is continuing to improve at a very rapid rate. So I take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. And what we've seen from Yannis, especially on the regional scene over in Fury, this guy's got some nasty striking. He's got good movement. He's fast. He's elusive. His hands are very, very clean. But we have seen a very big hole in his game is the grappling. Now, we've seen him offensively look pretty good when he's the one taking guys down and getting into the top positions. We've seen some good things from him there. But if you are able to take this guy down, get to his back, and put him in bad positions, he is not shown to necessarily have the answers in those spots. And I think that that's going to be a problem for him in this fight, because what we've seen from Siraj, he's a good grappler. His striking's okay on the feet. He can mix things together well, throw some volume out there, duck underneath, get you to kind of swing with him, open your hips up, take you down, and that's what he's done a pretty solid job of. Now, over his past 5 fights, he got knocked out by the OG Diego Brandao, right? And to be fair, Brandao showed up in those Powhatan shorts, right? If you have not seen that clip, he was wearing the Powhatan Pineda shorts, man. So he kind of had the touch of death in that fight coming in. So maybe we could give Siraj a little bit of a pass in that fight. And Diego, to be fair, I mean, this dude has a ton of experience. Caught him with a nasty spinning wheel kick. Then he goes out there, gets the submission victory. He's got a solid enough game. I feel like while he's not a great grappler, not a particularly good striker, I do think if this stays on the feet, Yannis will win all day long. But I'm going to say that Siraj is able to get him down at some point, get to the back, and find a submission in round number 2. If not, he'll win a hard-fought decision here, but I think that, I don't know, this is a toss-up to me. I think if it stays on the feet, Yannis gets it done, but I'm going to go with the guy that has a clear path to victory in terms of the grappling. And yeah, unless Yannis has really improved with the takedown defense, again, getting ran over by Bashi, not a huge deal because Bashi is a hyped-up guy. He's pretty good, but I think Siraj is a pretty clear path to victory here. Can strike a little bit with him on the feet, keep him at kicking range, close the distance when Yannis gets overly aggressive to get into the phone booth to box. Then he can get a hold of him, take him down, eventually get to the back and find a submission. I'll go Siraj, but if it stays on the feet, I think Yannis will bang him up all day long. I think Yannis is much better on the feet, especially with the boxing. I'll side with the guy that I think has a grappling edge here. Next, we have John Castaneda versus Mark Vologdin. Now, I actually think that this is going to be a very fun fight here because we got little man over here, Mark Vologdin. This guy is very small for the bantamweight division. He is a very, very small guy, a 65-inch reach. He's short, which that may benefit him in this fight. And I actually think that it will because John Castaneda is going to have to get very low to be able to shoot in on these takedowns if he looks to grapple in this fight against Mark Vologdin, which I anticipate that Castaneda will look to do at some point. Now, Mark Vologdin is a guy that, while he might be short, I might kind of have that little bit of a meatball frame for the bantamweight division, and I kind of wonder if we'll ever see him at flyweight at some point. This guy's ferocious on the feet. He's got no quit in him. We saw that on the Contender Series, in which was not only the greatest DWCS fight of all time, but one of the greatest fights that I've ever seen. Like, this fight was insane, man. Now, saying that it's one of the greatest fights I've ever seen, there's pros and cons. Early in the fight, Vologdin looked very technical. Then he started to slow down, and it became an all-out war. So we're not seeing a ton of technicalities, especially once he started to fatigue and the fight started to play out. Now, to be fair, Adrian Luna Martinetti, I think he has a fight coming up soon. I think it might be with Davey Grant or something. This guy, he's pretty good, man. He's a good striker, had the range advantage. It's not like Castaneda, yeah, he has a reach advantage, but I don't think he has this crazy range advantage with the way that Castaneda likes to fight, to where maybe Vologdin comes in and this just takes a toll on him. He's only 26 years of age. Getting into an all-out slugfest like that, especially, you know, we've seen some fighters where they just come back and they might not be the same. But everything that we saw from Vologdin prior to that fight, this dude has a solid ground game, good submission skills, good forward pressure. He can switch stances very well, and he's got a dynamic attack. He'll chip away at the legs, rip kicks to the body. His hands are pretty tight, and he's got power to where I think that there is a scenario to where he could pressure Castaneda and put him away. But I get worried coming off of this fight that we saw against Adrian Luna to where John Castaneda has all this experience, right? And while he hasn't been particularly great in the UFC, he still holds some wins, right? Beat Gafarov. I believe he was able to submit Miles Johns as well, which is a pretty solid victory, right? Most recently losing to Daniel Marcos, Chris Gutierrez, which was a close fight, and that's pretty solid opposition. So it's not like he's losing to bad fighters. And to at least have a couple wins in the UFC, we've seen more from Castaneda at a higher level. However, I feel like Castaneda, man, his game is so straightforward. Sometimes he'll sit on the back foot a little bit too much, not pressure you a lot, try to have this kind of clean style of fight to where we've seen Vologdin start the fight very clean and very technical, and then as he has to dig deep and kind of turn it into one of these grit fest, I actually feel like that's where he's going to be able to capitalize on John Castaneda as the fight plays out. So I could see Castaneda getting this done, weaponizing the experience. He's been in there with the better competition. He's got wins over solid dudes. And again, you know, losing to some of these guys, there's a chance that some of these guys just outscore Vologdin and make him look silly. But I like what I've seen from Vologdin, man. And we've seen the grit. We've seen the toughness. So we know he's durable. We know he's got cardio. He's not going to give up on himself. And this guy, before he fatigued in that fight and started getting kind of beaten up a little bit, he's got some good technique, man, and I like what we saw from him on the feet. I like the power. I like the hand speed, the kicks, and I know he's a little bit of a meatball out there, but I like what I've seen from Vologdin, man, and I'm going to give him a shot in this one to go out here and get it done. But like I said, to me, it makes sense to kind of favor Castaneda in a way because he has the experience, but I just feel like Vologdin can get in his face, chip away with the leg kicks. We've seen Castaneda's ground game is pretty good, but we've seen Vologdin's takedown defense has been pretty solid. We see him get taken down. He scrambles back to his feet. He's got good, technicalities in terms of getting back to the feet. I think Vologdin wins based on I think it's going to be a close fight. He's going to have to grit down. He's going to have to work for this one, but I think that he will slightly outwork Castaneda and win a close one on the scorecards. I'll say by split decision. Give me Mark Vologdin by volume and output in this one, but I think that there'll be some hairy moments. I think this goes to decision regardless. It'll be a close one, but I'll side with Vologdin. I like his versatility, and I think he's a fun fighter, man, so I'll side with him in his debut. Next, we have Mitch Raposo versus Allan Nascimento. Now, this is a really good fight, and this is one that I've went back and forth on because I feel like no matter who I pick in this fight, I'm going to jinx the fight and it's going to go the other way. So take what you will with that information because I see a clear path to victory for Mitch Raposo in this fight. And I feel like he's a guy that by looking at Tapology is being really counted out in this fight, which is pretty surprising to me because Mitch Raposo, I get it. I was one of those people saying maybe the Mitch Raposo experiment, this is not going to work out in the UFC, right? Comes in, he's kind of had some chances, comes back, right, loses to Andre Lima, but we're seeing how good Lima is. Sumadarje, very, very good strikers, very high-level guys in the flyweight division, and most recently going out there and, putting on a great showing against Azat Maxim. But again, we got to see that Maxim kind of got exposed in a way. He ended up kind of being fraudulent. But the bottom line with Mitch Raposo is he's got solid wrestling, and I think he's the better wrestler here. And I think on the feet, he's got a nice calf kick, but his boxing is really good. He's very explosive, in and out of the pocket, mixes up shots well, will rip to the body, bring, that right hand around the guard. He's got power, and I think he's the more explosive guy here. So I think if Raposo keeps this fight on the feet, he doesn't get reckless shooting blind takedowns and getting desperate and putting himself into some of these hairy positions on the floor to where Nascimento is very, very dangerous when it comes to the submission game. He's got very high-level jiu-jitsu. I feel like Raposo can just stick and move and outbox him on the feet and possibly knock him out or just outscore him and win a decision. But the problem I have in this fight, though, because I really feel like this to me is a coin flip because I see clear as day. Like if Raposo keeps it on the feet, I think he can outstrike Nascimento, hurt him, and outscore him. But on the other side, Allan Nascimento is really good, man. Like we see these moments on the feet to where he doesn't look particularly great, especially against Cody Durden. There were some hairy moments to where Durden was having early success, but then Nascimento was able to get to the takedowns, was able to get to his back, was able to get into a little bit of a scramble, was able to find the anaconda. And we've seen from Nascimento training over at Shoot to Box. It's very Charles Oliveira-like in the approach, right? Aggressive Muay Thai, front kicks up the middle, batter the midsection, front kicks to the face, knees in the clinch, elbows. It's very much a knee and elbow and kicking game from Nascimento to where the boxing, it's just not good. It's not good whatsoever. And I think Raposo has a significant advantage there, which is why I think Raposo can get this done. But my worry is Raposo, we see at times some questionable decision-making to where he'll be landing on the feet, and sometimes Mitch Raposo doesn't let his hands go enough, right? And some of these fights where they're split decisions, I don't really know if they're split decisions, right? The judges, I guess, they like Raposo because it's a lot of explosive movements. He's exploding in and out of range, landing some good boxing combos, winning some minutes on the ground with the wrestling. The problem I have in terms of picking Raposo is as much as I think he can get it done with the boxing, and I wouldn't be shocked if he does, Allan Nascimento, to me, his ground game is so dangerous. And if there's any grappling entanglements whatsoever, I just don't know if Raposo is going to make it through. Because we've seen from Nascimento, we saw him get to the back of Carlos Hernandez, right? He's winning grappling exchanges against Jafel Filho, who I feel like is maybe the dark horse of the flyweight division. Really dangerous on the feet, really good ground game. But we saw Filho kind of fumble some positions to where I feel like that kind of led to the Nascimento win. And we saw Jourdain having some success with the boxing. Even though Jourdain's got some underrated striking, he's kind of washed up at this point. So I'm going to side with Allan Nascimento to win a decision here, but I feel like if Nascimento gets into some of these grappling exchanges, I feel like he might be able to submit Mitch Raposo. But I think that there's the chance that Nascimento gets a submission here, but I'm going to say he wins kind of a control-based decision with the grappling. I think on the feet, he can bang leg kicks from range, the front kicks up the middle, kind of keep Raposo at bay. He's going to have, a 5-inch reach advantage, a little bit of a height advantage. Nascimento's a big flyweight, man. Right, and he's, yes, got some deficiencies with the boxing, especially with the striking defense, but we've seen that Muay Thai style, the front kicks up the middle, the knees, the elbows in close. It's a good way to kind of make Raposo pay. When he steps in with the boxing, meet him with some elbows, try to slice him up. And if the fight hits the deck, man, Nascimento is really, really dangerous. Nasty jiu-jitsu skills. He can scramble well. He maintains control well. So if he's able to get those positions, Raposo's got to be very careful getting back to his feet, because if you just try to recklessly explode, that is where Nascimento can get to a scary position and find a way to get Raposo out of there with a submission. I think that's very possible, but I'm going to side with Nascimento to land some good strikes with the kicks at range. You know, if we get to some of the grappling entanglements, we'll take the back of Raposo, be able to win minutes that way, and win a grappling control-based decision while landing some shots on the feet. But like I said, clear path to victory here for Raposo to bang him up on the feet with the boxing. And some of these losses, they have not aged poorly whatsoever from Raposo against some really good strikers. And again, almost 5 years ago, Nascimento losing to Tagir Olombekov. But to me, yes, Raposo has good wrestling. I think Nascimento's jiu-jitsu is very dangerous, to where if the fight hits the deck, Nascimento can put Mitch Raposo in some real danger that will make Mitch hesitant to get up. I'm going to go Nascimento by a close decision here. To me, this is a coin flip. I could see either guy getting it done. I'll side with Nascimento because of the dangerous jiu-jitsu. Next, we got J.J. Aldrich versus Jamey-Lyn Horth. I'm picking Jamey-Lyn Horth to win this one by a decision. And for me, this just comes down to both of them are rather underwhelming, even though Jamey-Lyn Horth is coming off of a ferocious knockout over Teresa Bleda. This was a great performance 3 months ago, so she's riding some momentum. Beat Vanessa Demopoulos, coming off of a finish win, right? Lost to Miranda Maverick and Veronica Hardy, which was a close one. And Veronica Hardy, she's got that wizard Dan Hardy in her corner, right? She's always well prepared, good movement, good footwork, good timing. You know, but I haven't been super impressed with Horth, right? And I feel like Aldrich, she might be able to get this one done, right? I know Aldrich, 33, she's been around for forever, kind of underwhelming, not super explosive, does have technical striking. We saw her get a finish over Liang almost 3 years ago with the ground and pound stoppage, but nothing has been that impressive to me, right? And if you have speed or you have some sort of edge over Aldrich in a particular area, that's normally where you can find a way to take advantage of her skill set and be able to win. I think Jamey-Lyn Horth wins a very close fight here. I think that this comes down to the fact that on the feet, while Aldrich may be more technical, I think Horth, decently technical, has the power edge, and is just a stronger fighter here, to where I feel like she might even be able to take Aldrich down, win some minutes that way. Maybe Aldrich is able to outstrike her. I think that this is a close fight, but I'm going to side with Horth because she's got some momentum. She does have more power, I think, on the feet, even though Aldrich may be a little bit more technical. We see a lot of the times in WMMA that having that strength, the strength and explosiveness can be an advantage over, that's just an MMA, anyway, right? You can be more technical, but that doesn't mean you're always going to win if someone's very explosive and has what I think is a pretty sizable strength advantage here. So I'm going to side with Jamey-Lyn Horth. Got the momentum, has the strength, she's well-rounded. I think she can sting Aldrich on the feet, out-damage her, out-control her on the ground, and win a close decision here. I'll go Horth by decision. Next, we got Melissa Croden versus Darya Zheleznyakova. Now, I actually think that this is a badass WMMA fight here because both of these women are really aggressive fighters, and they are both capable of getting a finish. So Melissa Croden, at 35 years of age, has shown that she is a finisher, and we've seen that a lot throughout her career. Now, before the UFC, she lost to Jacqueline Cavalcanti, which I think Jacqueline Cavalcanti is one of the better up-and-coming WMMA fighters right now. She's a smooth tactician on the feet. She throws really good straight, long combinations. She had Croden in all kinds of trouble in this fight, right? But Croden was able to survive, was able to go the distance, but she was getting beaten up in that fight, man. Right, was able to get the stoppage, over in LFA, a couple of stoppages. But again, suspect competition, goes out there and beats Lisboa. We picked her to win this fight. I think she was an underdog in this fight. She dominated Lisboa, was able to get her out of there. And then most recently got dominated and just out-techniqued by Luana Santos. So Melissa Croden, solid striking, good power in her hands, will throw caution to the wind. Has a solid ground game to where I think she should look to grapple in this fight, because if she just stands at range and kind of has a back-and-forth boxing match or a striking fight with Zheleznyakova, I think that favors Darya, because we've seen from Darya, right, lost to Melissa Mullins almost 4 years ago, but got some get-back most recently and was able to outscore her, stuff the takedowns, keep it on the feet, and touch her up, right? And we've seen, she beat Montserrat Rendon, decent. Lost to Eileen Perez, who ended up twerking in her face. And Eileen Perez's ground game is really good. Perez has a much better ground game, I think, than Melissa Croden. I don't know that Croden's ground game is good enough to really trouble Zheleznyakova in this fight. So I'm actually going to side with Zheleznyakova here to win by decision. I think that she is going to be able to hurt Croden quite a bit in this fight. And we've seen one of the weaknesses for Croden is if you go out there and you're kind of a deer in headlights and you allow Melissa to just kind of bully you around, she'll just run you over and get you out of there. And she'll out-grit you later in the fight, especially in round 3. She turns it up and finds ways to get people out of there. But we've seen that she struggles with more technical fighters, and I think that Darya is a more technical fighter. Her grappling we've seen that it's been suspect, but I feel like it's gotten better over the past few years. We saw that in the Melissa Mullins fight, and I feel like Mullins is a little bit more proven than Melissa Croden so far in the UFC, and I think Zheleznyakova, not as good as Jacqueline Cavalcanti, but can take a similar game plan to what we saw in that fight. Stuff the takedowns, put the boxing on her, utilize, kind of that rangy striking that she used, the good straight shots down the middle. We have seen that Croden is very, very hittable. So is Zheleznyakova. So I could see this fight going either way. I think Croden is maybe a little bit more powerful and can kind of bite down on the mouthpiece and grit it out as it plays out later into the fight. But I'm going to say that Darya bags the first 2 rounds and then Croden turns it up and it gets kind of scary late. But Zheleznyakova will hang on to get the job done. But if we see a stoppage, I could see Darya knocking her out early because Croden's very hittable. But I could also see Croden kind of surviving an early storm, battling back, and getting a late stoppage over Zheleznyakova. So competitive fight here, but I'm going to side with a tactical. I know she could get a little Looney Tunes on the feet, but I'll go with Zheleznyakova. Her movement, the boxing, her takedown defense looked to be pretty improved against Mullins in the rematch. I feel like Mullins is probably a better grappler than Croden, and Croden's defense isn't very good. When you're relying on durability, you're 35 years of age, Zheleznyakova, I think, can pick her apart on the feet and edge this one out by decision. I'll say 29-28. Next, we got Tanner Boser versus Gakhan Saricam. So we have Tanner Boser, who fought almost a year ago in UAE Warriors, right? Hasn't fought in the UFC. It's been almost 3 years. Now, Tanner Boser's a guy that's been in there with a much better opposition, right? Got destroyed by Ion Cutelaba, Rodrigo Nascimento in a split decision, beat up on OSP almost 5 years ago. He's been in there with some of the better fighters in the heavyweight division. I think he was in there actually with Cyril Gahn earlier in Gahn's career, if I'm not mistaken. So he's been in there with clearly the better opposition. And I think on the feet, Tanner is better than Saricam. I think that if this plays out on the feet, I think Boser can get it done all day long. We've seen Boser's pretty tough, but it just feels like, to me, there's a clear path to victory here for Saricam, right? I know he hasn't been in there with that great of opposition, but we've clearly seen with his skill set, he's getting better and better. He's a solid grappler. He's got decent striking on the feet, kind of ducks and closes his eyes and, hopes and prays when he's throwing sometimes, which I don't particularly like that, because if he does that in this fight, I could see him getting knocked out by Boser for sure. But I'm going to side with Saricam to get this thing done. And I'll say that I've battled between a stoppage or a decision here. I'm going to say that he wins by decision. He might be able to get a ground and pound stoppage. I feel like if he does get a stoppage, it'll be him taking Boser down, controlling him on the ground, posturing up, landing some nasty elbows, getting the referee to step in. But if this plays out on the feet for long periods of time, I think that Tanner will outstrike him, pick him apart, and possibly find that shot to be able to get him out of there. But from what I've seen from Saricam, he can make it kind of chaotic and take advantage of more of a pretty style of striker on the feet in Boser, who kind of likes that clean type of matchup. I don't think that Saricam is going to come in here and have a clean back and forth MMA fight with Boser. I think he gets in his face, pushes a crazy pace, takes him down, kind of puts him in the washing machine, rinse and repeat, is able to beat him up on the ground a little bit and win some control time and edge this one out 29-28. Saricam again. Not a ton of confidence, given the fact that we haven't really seen Saricam fight anyone, especially UFC caliber, in my opinion, but it's heavyweight. And Boser, guy that hasn't fought in the UFC in a while, even though he's fought the better opposition, doesn't always mean that you're going to beat a guy that is kind of getting a big opportunity here in Saricam. So I'll say Saricam gets it done by out-grappling Boser and winning on control time, landing some good ground and pound as well. Next, we have Robert Valentin versus Julien Leblanc. Now, you talk about possibly the worst fight on this card. Now, in terms of action, I do think it'll be action-packed, but in terms of just skill level, this is a dog crap fight, man. This is literally low. Like, this isn't a UFC level fight. It just isn't. This is something that should be on a regional card. I don't know. I don't think either guy is good, and either guy is UFC caliber. And I know Julien Leblanc, he's 10-2, and look at all these W's here, man. He's beating this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy. I haven't seen anything really impressive, and I know you could say maybe the most impressive win on his resume is beating Darya in weeks, I guess. You know, we've seen his ground game's okay. He's solid on the feet. He'll mix up the kicks to the body, stick and move. His striking is all right. I'm going to go with Robert Valentin, though. I think that he's going to be able to get this one done. I'll say by a gritty type of decision. I don't know. Maybe someone gets finished in this fight. I don't know, man. I think that this is just one of those fights that it's so low level for UFC standards. Robert Valentin, I've at least seen on The Ultimate Fighter beat somebody, right? And I know that it wasn't a good look getting ground and pounded out by Ryan Loder, but to be fair, I think Loder probably beats LeBlanc. I mean, I'm just not impressed with LeBlanc, right? When I pull up the tape, I'm like, I don't know. He's taking forever to finish some of these guys that I don't think are high level whatsoever. And I know the week's performance, I mean, okay, that's a pretty good win. But look who Valentin's been in there with. A really good wrestler in Ryan Loder who can kind of cancel out Valentin's game, which is basically chaotic power striking on the feet and jiu-jitsu. He took that away from him. Torres Finney, I didn't think it was a split decision, but Finney did no damage. He basically just out-wrestled him the whole time. That's kind of Valentin's kryptonite, or an absolute monster and Atiba Gauthier, who just ran him over with the striking, and Atiba would literally destroy LeBlanc in probably under a minute. So fighting good competition. I've at least seen some things from LeBlanc at a rather higher level, even though it hasn't been really impressive in all of these fights. He's basically been steamrolled for the most part. But I think Robert Valentin has got power in his hands. He's got solid submission skills to where I don't think LeBlanc runs him over with the grappling, maybe outstrikes Valentin on the feet. But I'm going to say Valentin lands the more damaging shots, is able to beat up LeBlanc, and is able to win some of these rounds based on damage, dropping LeBlanc, stinging him a few times, and winning 29-28 on the cards. I could see it going either way. I think that this is a horrible fight, man. In terms of like UFC caliber, I don't think either of these guys are particularly good whatsoever. It feels like they're trying to give LeBlanc some sort of win in the UFC. And if he's ever going to beat anybody, it would definitely be Robert Valentin. I just haven't really liked what I've seen from Julien in terms of some of the stuff I've seen on tape, where I've seen at least Robert have some moments to a degree, I guess. And I feel like his kryptonite is guys that have crazy power. Does LeBlanc have that? Not really. I know he's got some technique and stuff, can mix up the kicks and the boxing pretty well. His ground game's all right, but his wrestling isn't that great. So Valentin's jiu-jitsu's good. I don't know. I feel like it all kind of cancels out, and Valentin's got more power and better striking. So I'll go Valentin, but again, I don't know, man. I don't think highly of either one of these guys at the UFC level. Next, we got Denis Buzukja versus Marcio Barbosa. This fight's not even close, man. Marcio Barbosa is terrifying, and he is going to knock out Denis Buzukja in the first round. We saw on DWCS, he went out there and ran over Wilson, got him out of there. Just absolutely ferocious, man. And if you watch the work he was putting in LFA, he's a fast starter, gets right in your face, ferocious power in his hands. Nasty kicks as well. He's a marauder, man. He'll walk you down on the feet, throw caution to the wind, back you up, and just land heat-seeking missiles, man. And this loss to Gabriel Santos, look at all the win. Gabriel Santos is one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC. All these prospects that are coming in through DWCS and, into the UFC that are balling, Gabriel Santos holds victories over these guys. So just how good is Gabriel Santos? But Dennis Buzukja, a guy I've been saying for the longest time, I just don't think he's UFC caliber whatsoever. And beating Connor Matthews, it just doesn't mean a lot. And I've always said that I feel like, close decision with Francis Marshall, and maybe Buzukja is able to take down Barbosa, stick and move, turn this into some sort of drawn-out fight or whatever. I think Barbosa will have an answer for the grappling of Buzukja. He will sprawl and brawl, keep it on the feet, walk him down with no respect, and put him away in the very first round. Barbosa's for real, man. He's got nasty power, rips to the body well, will tear apart the leg. I don't know, man. I think Barbosa just runs him over. Am I missing something here? I even said when Buzukja got into the UFC, it's like, is it because doesn't he train with Aljo and those guys? I thought he did, or maybe he did, or I don't know. Either way, I think he's getting ran over in this fight. He's going to have to fight a brilliant game plan to be able to go out here and find a way to kind of survive against Barbosa. That's what it feels like. Buzukja is going to have to come in here, fight super smart, be cautious for all 15 minutes while Barbosa can finish the fight at any second. I think he's just a way better fighter. I think he takes out Dennis Buzukja in the first 2 minutes of the very first round and gets him out of there with a nasty KO. This will be a highlight reel for Barbosa. I think he makes it look really easy. Next, we have Thiago Moises versus Gage Young. Now, this is an interesting fight because I really like Gage Young. And since he's came into the UFC, right, lost to Evan Elder, beat Mahashate. We've seen some of these moments, right? He lost to Quillen Salkild on DWCS, but we're seeing how good Quillen Salkild is. He's on fire in the UFC right now. And this, to me, is one of those matchups that could be really good or really bad for Gage Young because these guys are basically identical in terms of the height and the reach. So it's not like Thiago Moises has some sort of crazy length advantage here over Gage Young like a Salkild to where he can keep him at range, right? We know that Moises has that patented ATT calf kick. He will spam those calf kicks at range all day long. So Gage Young's going to have to check him. He's going to have to get that lead leg out of the way. He's going to have an answer for that. And we know Gage Young's a solid wrestler. So I feel like his wrestling might be better straight up than Thiago Moises. But in terms of MMA grappling, Thiago Moises, I would say, is the better overall MMA grappler based off of what we've seen in his career. And I know Thiago Moises is only 31 years of age. He's got a lot of miles on him. And granted, a lot of his losses are to really good fighters, man. BSD, Ludovic Klein, Jared Gordon, right? I think he lost to Islam Makhachev as well. He's only losing to really good fighters. But getting put out bad by Jared Gordon, I know Jared Gordon's got some solid boxing. It's just not a great look. Right? And yeah, he goes out there and beats Trey Ogden, who's got that kind of tall man frame, but he's not very dangerous. Beating Mitch Ramirez, again, the leg kicks. And as long as Gage Young has an answer for the calf kicks, Thiago Moises is, kind of beefed up to where he's in really good shape. And I feel like we've seen him take his strength and conditioning to that next level to where if Moises can bang up the calf kicks or bang up the lead leg of Gage Young with the calf kicks, I should say, slow him down, make him more of a sitting duck, mix in the grappling, take him down and put a solid wrestler on his back. That's where we see, especially some young wrestlers can tend to get exposed if you can put them on their back, especially a guy that, to me, has a pretty big advantage when it comes to if Moises can get him down. Moises' jiu-jitsu, I don't think that we can argue that it's better than Gage Young. I think this just comes down to the fact that Moises, to me, we've seen over his past few fights, very low output. He'll spam a few boxing combos from range. He'll just basically sit back behind, play defense, low output, spam calf kicks. And even if he does grapple, I can see him fatiguing. I can see him slowing down. So for those reasons, I'm going to pick Gage Young to get this one done by a decision. I think that maybe this is a little bit of a riskier pick because Moises has been in there with the better opposition. We've seen him beat, solid opponents. We've seen him lose to only really good fighters, basically. But it's just really a styles thing for me. I think Gage Young can match the grappling, stuff the takedowns. Gage Young's got sharp striking on the feet. He's improving. He's only 25 years of age. We're seeing kind of a new wrinkle in his game. He's got the cardio, the pace, the output. I just simply think he's going to do more than Moises, will rack up the volume and be able to outscore him and win a decision here. But I don't put it past Gage Young, especially with Moises coming off of a KO loss to Jared Gordon, which was a pretty brutal knockout, by the way. Maybe Gage Young takes advantage of a little bit of a, I don't know, like a doubting himself Moises to a degree, a guy that could end up being a little bit more gun shy, getting knocked out. How does Moises bounce back? I don't know. I'm going to side with Gage Young. He's got to have an answer for the calf kicks, though, because if he doesn't, he'll get that lead leg obliterated, and Moises, will be able to get it done. But I'll side with Gage Young. Defends the calf kicks, keeps the fight on the feet, picks him apart with the striking, outvolues him. I think Moises will have some moments, but I'll side with Gage Young in a 29-28 decision here over Thiago Moises. Big step up in competition for Young to a degree, but I don't know. I think he gets it done. Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Karine Silva. So Jasmine Jasudavicius is coming off of a devastating knockout loss to Manon Fiorot. But to be fair, Manon Fiorot is an absolute monster. She's one of the scariest strikers that we've probably ever seen in women's MMA. So I think that she would starch Karine Silva, right? And Karine Silva's two most recent losses, lost to Viviane Araújo and most recently Macy Barber. And this win over Dione Barbosa, I thought Barbosa won this fight. And I think I picked Silva to get it done. So I got the pick right, but I thought Barbosa won. Right, beating Ariana De Silva. I just haven't been that impressed with Karine Silva. Her striking, maybe you could say it's a little bit better than Jasudavicius. And where's the confidence going to be at from Jasmine? 37 years of age, got some miles on her at this point. Pressure here in Canada, right? Kind of one of the faces for Canada MMA, especially when it comes to, women's MMA. I think Jasmine Jasudavicius is simply the better grappler here. We saw her submit Jessica Andrade. We saw her be able to beat Mayra Bueno Silva, which is a pretty solid win. We saw her submit Ariana De Silva, beat Fatima Klein. I'm going to go Jasmine Jasudavicius to win a pretty dominant decision here over Karine Silva. And we've seen that Jasudavicius is not bankrupt on the feet. Now, I don't think she's as good of a striker as Silva, to where if Silva can stuff the takedowns, threaten off of her back with some submissions, maybe catch Jasmine in something, but maybe reverse positions, get herself out of, being just kind of dominated and controlled on the deck. I think that this is Jasmine's fight to lose. I think that she's better in terms of the straight wrestling. I think her submission game is very well. She's got good ground and pound. I think she just can control Silva, dominate her on the floor. I'll say she wins 30-27. I think that she dominates Karine Silva in this fight. I just think that there's levels, especially when it comes to the wrestling. And even though Silva's submission game is pretty good, Jasudavicius is very well-rounded on the deck as well. She's got good jiu-jitsu as well. She'll stay safe from the submissions. And I think that she'll hide the takedowns behind the striking. Her striking is decent enough to kind of keep up with Karine Silva on the feet. Because while I think Silva's better on the feet, I don't think it's leaps and bounds. So I'll side with Jasmine Jasudavicius to get this one done in Canada. It's going to be interesting to see how she bounces back, though, because, again, Manon Fiorot way better than Karine Silva. But when you get knocked out brutally like that, where's your confidence going to be at, especially since it was 5 months ago? But I'll side with Jasmine to get this one done. I just think she's the better overall fighter, and especially when it comes to the grappling, I think she dominates Silva on the deck. Next, we have Mandel Nallo versus Jai Herbert. This is one of the best fights on the card. And when you talk about pure tacticians on the feet, if you're a young fighter or a fighter that wants to take notes on technique, movement, sharp striking, everything comes from where it's supposed to. The technique is tight. That is Jai Herbert. Jai Herbert, to me, is a guy that just has all of the skills to be a super high-level fighter, especially in the lightweight division. But for whatever reason, it just hasn't clicked. We've seen the takedown defense get better. We see the striking looks really clean. Obviously, we know that he, many moons ago, caught Ilia Topuria with that perfectly timed little lead leg high kick to where Ilia was about to throw a right hand, timed it beautifully, intercepted with a head kick, dropped him, caught Ilia with a knee up the middle as well. And Herbert had a lot of moments in that fight. But again, we're nitpicking and early on Ilia in the UFC. And outside of that, Jai Herbert, for a guy that's so technical, he just doesn't separate himself enough a lot of the time, right? He'll throw good kicks to the body. He'll move around on the back foot really well, pull you into shots, set these traps, pick you apart with good technical striking, man. Like, he is a true tactician, and I really enjoy watching Jai Herbert fight, and I think he trains with Leon Edwards. I think they're teammates, and there's a lot of similarities in their game. Very technical. Everything looks perfect. But that kind of comes at a cost because a lot of the time, Jai Herbert gets stuck doing a bunch of nothing, right? Got outscored by Fares Ziam, who's just, Fares Ziam's an absolute monster, right? Beat Rolando Bedoya, but Bedoya is kind of just a moving heavy bag. No defense, not a ton of output, just spams a bunch of kicks, doesn't really have much to offer. Most recently loses to Chris Padilla in a split decision, and Padilla just kind of walked him down, put it on him, and we're seeing Padilla's really good. He's on a nice win streak. Well, that last fight was a draw. I thought he won, though. Right? And Padilla's got that smudge you up against the fence style, make it dirty and gritty. And I think Mandel Nallo, he has the frame to kind of be able to negate some of the things that Jai Herbert does well. Where Jai comes into these fights, he's got a very long reach usually, right? And his movement is a little bit too much in his speed. And I do think he's going to be faster than Mandel in this fight. And I think that he's the more, smooth fighter. But Mandel Nallo is a savage man. 6 foot, 75-inch reach. He can kind of match the distance of Jai Herbert to where Jai's just not going to be sticking and moving, cruising at range the whole time. And yes, this is, I would say, a pretty significant step up in competition for Mandel Nallo. He's coming off of a brutal WCS knockout against Samuel Silva. And this was ferocious, man. And he's very well coached over a TriStar with Firas Zahabi. They're going to have a brilliant game plan coming in here. Nallo's got nasty leg kicks. I think he'll batter the lead leg of Jai Herbert, make him more of a stationary target, a sitting duck. And this just comes down to the fact that I just feel like Nallo, given he's 36, almost 37, the time is now. The time is now. And while Jai Herbert, I think he's very capable of outscoring Nallo to where if this fight drags out, I think Jai Herbert can outscore him, maybe even catch him and fatigue him, because we've seen that. I don't even know if Nallo's been to a decision. This guy is basically kill or be killed. Goes out there, runs you over, or you run him over and find a way to get him out of there. I'm going to say that Mandel Nallo comes out like a bat out of hell, excited to be in the UFC and make his debut and get in the face of Jai Herbert and put him away. The guy's got powerful leg kicks, and that right hand is nasty, man, and he's speedy. That's the thing, as powerful as he is, he's got speed. He's explosive. He's got a well-rounded game to where, yes, Jai Herbert's takedown defense has been pretty good, but I feel like if Nallo even grapples, he probably has the advantage there. To maybe he can get to the back and submit Jai Herbert. Maybe he can control him and win a decision here and outscore him. But we know Nallo's going to come in very prepared, man. With Firas Zahabi, they're going to have a game plan. I would imagine it's going to be to attack the lead leg of Herbert, slow down some of the movement. Jai Herbert, while he's snappy, he's got very snappy, whippy kind of striking. He's not the most dangerous guy. And guys that like to pick and poke from range, you can kind of crowd that space, attack the lead leg, make him more of a sitting duck, slow down that movement to make it a little easier to get after him. That's what Nallo's going to do. Slow him down, back him up along the octagon side, catch him with a massive right hand, drop him, and put him away. I'll say it happens in the very first round. I think Mandel Nallo is one of those guys that has the frame, has the style to be able to match and negate what Jai Herbert does very well, and I think he puts him away early. Nallo is incredibly dangerous, more dangerous than Herbert. Herbert, maybe more technical, the very aesthetically pleasing striker to watch, right? You could take some notes in terms of just good technique and all that kind of stuff. But at some point, there's just guys that are explosive and have good technique as well. Nallo's technical. He's explosive. I think he gets in the face of Herbert and takes him out in the very first round. Herbert, low output, sticks and moves, not aggressive enough. I think Nallo will take advantage of that early in this fight. Next, we have our co-main event of the evening, Kyler Phillips versus Charles Jourdain. I know that Mike Malott is the one that's kind of receiving the push from the UFC to basically be the face of Canada MMA. I really think Charles Jourdain can be that guy. I think Charles Jourdain is not only one of the best fighters representing Canada, I think he's one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC. Charles Jourdain is a guy that I've picked a lot throughout his career. Now, I've been wrong with some of those, right? I can't specifically remember the fights that I picked that he lost or whatever here, but took out Ricardo Ramos, right? Lost, I think I picked him in this fight against Sean Woodson. Lost a split decision and was a close one. Got knocked out by Jean Silva. I don't think I picked him in that one. Jean Silva, again, that's at featherweight, right? That's up a weight class. So Charles Jourdain bouncing down a weight class, it's been one of those things that's worked out very, very well for him, right? When we saw Buckley go from 185 down to 170 and kind of have a fresh slate and just look way better, that's kind of what's happened to Jourdain. And his brother, by the way, is really good. I'm surprised he's not on this card. His brother's very good as well. Going out there and submitting Victor Henry, that's a great win. That's a solid win to be able to sub Victor Henry. I think that's worth something. Right, and then to go out there and sub Davy Grant, and we called the submission in this one as well. Club and sub, I think, is what happened. And I picked him to submit Davy Grant, and that's exactly what happened. And Davy Grant is a smooth wizard. Tactical at range, good kicks, mixes things up well, tricky guy to deal with, very crafty, savvy Davy Grant. I think Charles Jourdain is super dangerous, man. Charles Air Jourdain, I like this guy, man. He's explosive. He's a ton of fun. Never been in a boring fight. Nasty jiu-jitsu skills. One of the nastiest gillies in the UFC. He's explosive on the feet, a technical kickboxer from in the pocket with the knees, the elbows at range, moves in and out very, very well. He's coming into a fight here with a little bit of a puzzle in Kyler Phillips, and a guy that has been historically very durable. I don't think Kyler's ever been finished. And we've seen him go out there and sub Marcelo Rojo, beat Hani Barcelos, but again, that was almost 3 years ago, and Barcelos is one of those guys that kind of hit like a late prime, so to speak. One of those guys that really started to kind of find his groove later on in his career, right? Beat Pedro Munoz, but most recently, we've seen him struggle. He comes out very explosive in the first round. The tornado, he's spinning around doing all these wild techniques to where if he could clip you with something like that, he could get you out of there. But we've seen that Kyler Phillips, very good gym over at MMA Lab, very technical, very wild, very unpredictable, but he slows down massively after that first round. Right? We saw that in the Vinny Oliveira fight. That's kind of been the pattern with Kyler Phillips. Very explosive, very technical. And in that first round, he looks like he could be a top bantamweight. But then after that first round, there's a big dip in the energy. Then the defense, the movement, everything starts to slow down. He becomes a lot more hittable. He becomes a lot more of a sitting duck. He becomes a lot easier to get to. And I think that that's what happens in this fight. If he doesn't put Charles Jourdain away early, I think that this is Charles Jourdain's fight to lose here, man. I am very high on Charles Jourdain. I think he's one of the best fighters, if not the best, representing Canada, in my opinion. I really like this guy, man. I think he's a savage. I think he's a ton of fun to watch. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he submits Kyler Phillips in this fight. I'm going to say that as Phillips slows down later in this fight, Charles Jourdain is able to time some sort of knee as maybe Phillips shoots kind of a sloppy, lethargic takedown. Boom. Jourdain's going to clip him with a knee, hop right on a ghillie, and get him out of there. I'm going to say Charles Jourdain by round 3 ghillie. And I know that Phillips is durable. I don't think anyone's put him away. But Charles Jourdain's one of those guys that is dangerous at all times. He's explosive on the feet. He can sting you. He's unpredictable in his own right as well. It's not like Kyler Phillips is the only tornado here. Charles Jourdain can be very unpredictable. But I feel like early on, Jourdain will be cautious. He'll kind of meet fire with fire at times, but not play into the game of Kyler Phillips. Look to drag this thing out, wait for Phillips to slow down. He uses so much movement, man, does Kyler. And eventually, when you do that, you start to slow down. I feel like Charles Jourdain will exploit that as the fight plays out. Look to grapple a little bit, especially early. Take away some of that early danger and explosiveness from Phillips. I think Jourdain will fight a very smart fight here, man. And at 30 years of age, him and his brother, they're savages. They have similar styles. Love watching them fight. I think Charles Jourdain, if he doesn't get the finish, will win by decision. I think that maybe Phillips will take the first round. Jourdain will win the final 2. But I'll say he gets a submission here. So more likely maybe that it's a decision considering Phillips, hasn't been stopped. But that doesn't mean that you can't be stopped. And I think Charles Jourdain is a very dangerous dude. He's explosive. He's dynamic. He's going to be in Canada. He's going to be all fired up. I think he clips Phillips with a knee as Phillips starts to slow down and club and sub once again, kind of like what he did to Davy Grant, and gets him out of there. I'm going Charles Jourdain, man. I'm very high on this guy. And we've seen from Kyler Phillips, yeah, he's explosive. He's fun, especially early. But in the past, he's slowed down a lot. If you can patch that up and his gas tank looks better, I think that this can be very competitive. But I'm going to say that he slows down at some point. Jourdain is able to hurt him, hop on a guillotine, and get him out of there. Give me Charles Jourdain. I really like him, man. I think he's a great fighter. Last but not least, we have arrived at the main event of the evening. We got Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott. And if you guys are enjoying this video, if you could do me a favor, please like the video. If you're new, subscribe to the channel. I see the analytics, man. A lot of people are watching these videos and you are not subbed. That's dirty, man. If you could sub, I would greatly appreciate it. And also hype the video. I would greatly appreciate it, man. So for the main event, we got Gilbert Burns, who's almost 40 years of age, is riding a 4-fight losing streak, is 1-4 in his last 5, and is taking on one of the most overrated fighters in all of the UFC in Mike Malott. And I know that there's a lot of people that probably clicked on this video to hear me talk about Mike Malott, because those of you that are new, I like Mike Malott. His brother's a hockey player. Mike Malott's got a vibe to him to where he's very tactical, he's very good, he's good everywhere. I get it all. This dude is the Canada plant by the UFC. He is. I'm sorry, he is, and he's massively overrated. Massively overrated, and he is going to get, I'm telling you, he is going to get knocked out by these guys at the top. He's going to get dominated by these guys at the top, especially these guys that Gilbert Burns has been losing to. Got knocked out by Michael Morales in the very first round. Mike Malott gets destroyed by Mike Morales in the very first round. Sean Brady runs over Mike Malott and probably submits him in the very first round. JDM puts on a boxing masterclass against Mike Malott. So all the dudes that Gilbert Burns is losing to, they all beat Mike Malott, in my opinion, including Belal Muhammad. He would drown Mike Malott. If Belal Muhammad was in here against Mike Malott, I'm picking Belal Muhammad by a decision. I think he would just put Belal would put a pace on Mike Malott. And I call Mike Malott Mike Maflop, because Mike Malott is the definition of a fumble. Like, Mike Malott will, if you hand him the ball late in the game, we got the lead, don't lose the lead, man. Don't fumble the ball. Mike Malott will do it. He will have butterfingers, will drop the ball, put the ball on the deck, and give the game away. And we saw that against Neil Magny. And I was cautioning everybody in this Magny fight. I did pick Mike Malott, but I said if he doesn't get Neil Magny out of there, this dude slows down, and don't be surprised if he gets put away. And sure enough, it happened. And whoa, he went out there and outscored Trevin Giles. Big whoop. Gilbert Burns beats Trevin Giles. Charles Radke, Gilbert Burns beats, Charles Radke. And I know Radke's pretty good. He's got some power, this and that. And Kevin Holland, we had the clash of heads, I think, right? Numerous low blows. He basically had to low blow his way to a decision over Kevin Holland, right? Submitted Adam Fugit. And listen, I rip on Mike Malott because I think this guy's massively overrated. I think he's a good fighter, but he's not a top guy in this weight class. And there's a lot of people that act like he is, and I'm sorry, he's not. This just comes down to the fact that Gilbert Burns, to me, can he turn back the dials and show any flashes of something? Because if he can, he wins this fight. If Gilbert Burns looks like he did in the JDM fight 2 years ago, that Gilbert Burns beats Mike Malott. Now, to be fair, Mike Malott has gotten better. So, yes, I got to rip on Mike Malott, man. But Mike Malott has gotten better. His striking is tactical. He is speedy. He does move well. Good lateral movement, good footwork, good calf kicks. He's got high fight IQ. His defense is not very good on the feet, which could get him into trouble to where Burns could land some massive shots. His grappling is good to where I don't think Burns is just going to be able to take Malott down and dominate him on the ground. And even if Burns does get him down, we've seen as Gilbert has gotten older, he slows down and the gas tank tends to go out the window. Gilbert Burns' last win was 3 years ago against an old Jorge Masvidal, to where Burns didn't look good in that fight to me, and neither did Jorge Masvidal. So to me, Gilbert Burns has not been the same guy since that Khamzat Chimaev fight. And I know that was an amazing fight. It was a crazy back and forth, all of that. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at a technical, speedy 34-year-old Mike Malott, who's in the prime of his career, versus a very old Gilbert Burns, to me, that is not the guy that fought JDM 2 years ago. Even if I had a guarantee that Burns was that guy, I'm picking him to win this fight, and I think that he would finish Mike Malott. Because Mike Malott's gas tank, I got a lot of questions. This is a 5-round fight. I'm seeing him slow down. Yeah, he's wrestling, looking good against Neil Magny, throwing a bunch of calf kicks, gassed out, and got finished in Canada. This guy basically only fights in Canada, man. And I understand Mike Malott, he's a cool guy and all this and that, and I like Mike Malott, but I'm just warning people. I've been warning people, and I've been picking him in these fights and getting it right, but it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time, and it feels like he's just like, you're nervous the whole time. Like, is he going to win? Like the Kevin Holland fight, I'm like, he's getting touched up. And if he's not low-blowing Kevin Holland, I think he loses that fight. So what I think is going to happen here, does Gilbert Burns knock out Mike Malott? I think it's possible. If Mike Malott slows down and Gilbert Burns doesn't slow down, Gilbert Burns is the more powerful striker here. Is he the more technical striker? Absolutely not. Mike Malott's faster. Gilbert Burns is a one-dimensional striker. He'll rip some of those calf kicks, but Malott will go southpaw, so that should kill that. Burns will rip the kicks to the body. They're slow. They're very easy to see coming. And Burns basically spams overhand rights and a big sweeping left hook. He kind of just holds up the high guard, waits for you to throw, and then, he does the catch and shoot style of striking. And we've seen Burns drop Kamaru Usman, but if you think about the greatest accomplishments from Gilbert Burns, almost what are they? Fights that he's lost. Okay, he was beating JDM until he got kneed in the face, but he lost. He had a war with Khamzat, but he lost. He dropped Kamaru Usman, impressive, but he lost. You see what I'm saying? Like Gilbert Burns, when's the last time he submitted somebody? Could he dominate Malott on the ground, show levels, and submit? Impossible. But from what I've seen from Gilbert Burns recently, man, I understand that the competition is very steep, but I mean, Sean Brady had some moments, and I think that all these guys do beat Mike Malott, but man, I'm struggling with this, man. In case you can't tell, I'm stalling on the pick. Because Michael Morales, but Burns put up like no fight in that whatsoever. He got tagged one time, and it was just kind of like it was over. We all knew Morales was going to win, but still. What I think is going to happen in this fight is Mike Malott is going to fumble. He is going to be at the goal line, game on the line, got it in the bag. We are up here. All you have to do is don't turn it over. And Mike Malott is going to turn it over. But then what's going to happen is Gilbert Burns is going to pick up the fumble, try to run it back to win the game and steal this thing, and then he's going to fumble. And Mike Malott is going to fall on it, and the day is going to be saved, and that's what's going to happen. Mike Malott will beat Gilbert Burns by a decision in this fight, and I think that it is going to get very dicey. I think Mike Malott's going to look good very early on. He's going to be sticking and moving. outstriking Gilbert Burns, stinging him up, tagging him up. And then you're going to see Burns have some success. He's going to land some shots. Malott's going to be, getting stung up a little bit. It's going to be like, what do we have here? Gilbert Burns is battling back into the fight. Malott will be up 2 rounds. Burns takes round 3. Then round 4, Burns will get it done. But then in round 5, Mike Malott will do enough to be able to go out here and get a second win and find a way to barely outscore Gilbert Burns to get it done. Now, having said that, Mike Malott just might go out here and run over Gilbert Burns, because if Gilbert Burns is outwashed, Mike Malott should destroy him, because Mike Malott is a good fighter. I'm just saying, why in the heck is he a massive favorite? That's where a lot of this is coming from for me, man. Like, this guy is why is he a massive favorite? What is he? Who's he beaten? Who's he beaten? So I'll go Mike Malott by decision, but I might have to think more on this one, man. I'm tempted to pick Gilbert Burns. I really am. I just don't. If I saw any sign of life from Gilbert Burns in some of these fights, which to me, and again, a lot of time has went by. And I know Gilbert Burns is training at Killcliff FC. RoboCop's looked really good. Vicente Luque, we're seeing these guys kind of bounce back and make these adjustments. And Burns has been in there with really high-level competition. But also, Burns is a guy that's taken quite a bit of damage. And he's a guy that's slowed down as well. And I know Moicano and him are buddies, and look at the performance Moicano just put on. So maybe, the OGs, the old heads, are just finding ways to take out the young dudes. But I feel like Mike Malott should get this done. And also, part of the reason I'm picking Malott is because if he can't beat Gilbert Burns in Canada, where this is literally all set up for Malott to win, then Malott's just... Is he ever going to be, really anywhere in the rankings in this weight class? That's also a way I look at it whatsoever, a way that I look at it as well. So I call him Mike Maflop, because this guy will fumble. I'm telling you, man. He will fumble or almost fumble. Just like the Kevin Holland fight, without the low blows, I think Kevin Holland wins. The Neil Magny fight, fumbled it away. And Mike Malott has questionable cardio. He's got questionable cardio, and this is a 25-minute fight. So the gas tank, it better be in check, man. It better be in check. And to me, if Gilbert Burns comes in beyond washed, like there's a great possibility he does, Malott should run him over, outscore him, and be able to TKO him within the first 3 rounds. But if Burns shows any signs of life, I think he makes it a little bit more competitive, and we get Mike Malott winning 3-2 in a close one. That's the way I look at this, man. Or Malott dominantly outscores him. I don't know, man. I don't know. These main events these days are driving me nuts, because it's like, oh, you got the veteran guy, so you should just pick them because the prospect, they're just going to show him levels. And then we'll go ahead and pick Burns here, and he'll just get ran over. And it's like, well, that goes out the window. But then if I pick Malott and then Burns runs him over, you should have known, man, Burns is the better and Mike Malott's overrated, which I do think Malott is overrated. So I don't know. I'm picking Mike Malott. He's younger, and because I think he should win this fight at this moment. Having said that, I don't trust Mike Malott, man, and I don't think I ever will as a fighter. Mike Maflop. Daniel Jones in the NFL, the people that thought of the way people thought of Sam Darnold, the guy that just wait, crucial moment, he'll throw an interception. Sam Darnold's not that guy anymore. Daniel Jones is that guy. That's Mike Malott. Take away what Mike Malott does well. Take away his explosiveness. Make him tired. Don't allow him to stick and move at range. What's Malott going to do? I think Burns will beat him if that happens. I'm back and forth on this fight, man. I'm just not sold on Mike Malott. Not sold on him. And I just get frustrated when the UFC is like kind of slamming some of these guys down our like, you're just slamming them at it, like Mike Malott. And I'm like, I think Charles Jourdain is better. I think Charles Jourdain is a better fighter, honestly. So I think Malott's skilled. Don't get me wrong. I do think he's very skilled, at least for the first couple rounds, and then he slows down. Good technique, good combinations, good kicks to the body, good calf kicks. Malott should win the fight. If he loses this fight, I don't even know where he goes from here, man, because if you can't beat a dang near 40-year-old Gilbert Burns, who just hasn't looked, even though he's fought good competition, we haven't seen much sign of life. We haven't. So I'm going to go Malott. He shouldn't be anywhere near this big of a favorite whatsoever, and I feel like that's part of the reason that I kind of feel the way I do is what has he done to be that big of a favorite, I guess. So I'll go Mike Maflop. But like I said, don't be surprised if this guy gets tired and Gilbert Burns ends up finishing him. I'm not ruling that out whatsoever. So I think that this should be much closer in terms of the odds because Gilbert Burns is the more proven guy, fought the better guys, just hasn't looked good. Feels like he's pretty washed up at this point. Malott is on the incline. Burns is on the decline. I'll favor Mike Malott to get it done. He is skilled. Question the gas tank. And I just think Malott is a very overrated guy, man, and I don't know what he's done to be such a massive favorite in this fight. But again, he has looked good. That Radke performance has aged pretty well. He's got good knees to the body. I could see him taking out Burns as well. We've seen Burns. His durability's kind of, he was known for being durable, not as much these days. Cardio fades, but I will pick Mike Malott to get this one done. I've picked him quite a bit. It just feels like, man, he kind of starts to bobble the ball, and you're like, no, Mike, hold on to it. So I'm just warning people, man. Warning people. I did in the Magny fight, and it was right, but again, 2 years ago. So I feel like he's gotten better since then. I got to rip on Mike Malott, man. I got to do it. So I'll pick Mike Malott to get it done by decision.